to talk back. Today we will be discussing the state of the Indian economy. To do this, I have with me as guests Mr. Salman Khurshid, Chairperson, Department of Policy Planning, Congress Party, and Mr. Sunil Shastri, National General Secretary and Party Spokesperson for BJP. Welcome to the program. Mr. Shastri, the state of the economy is not good. Everything that we look at is going downwards. The growth rate is down, investment is stagnant, imports are declining. What do you think is the reason that we have come down so much in the last 3 years?
No, when you say last 3 years, here I would like to state that 2 years the growth was good. 2 years the situation of the entire economy was improving. The prices were controlled, the inflation was controlled. Then not only that, even the growth had gone up. The food grains crops had touched 209 million tons in 1999. This year, somehow, we do feel that there has been slowing of the economic growth. But that is not because of certain, the programs or the policies, but due to the world over. If you see the world over, the sluggishness in the economy has come in. And that is one of the reasons. And secondly, we did have a lot of droughts and other problems did creep in. And our production in the sector, agriculture sector also came down, thus, curtailing the purchasing power of the farmers and the other people. So all these things are considered to be the major factors which has slower down the rate of economy. But we are confident now because we do have a feeling and we are going in for remedial measures, and we hope that in the coming year, because of the good rains, good monsoon again, we feel that the bumper crop is expected, and we will try to, but not only food grain, bumper crops will improve the situation. We'll have to go in for other measures. For example, the road, construction of roads, the Prime Minister's scheme, wherein we are going to link up, the entire country, and we are going to have for national highways, wider roads and better roads and all that. All these type of things, the money which is being allotted, and once it starts, the implementation of these programs go in full swing, naturally it will create more of employment, it will give better production in the steel sector and other cement sector and so many other things. So all these things, it has to be looked into in totality. Then only it will be harmed.
But the truth is that for 30 years after independence, we grew at an average rate of about 4% per year. Then in the 90s, in the mid-90s, we were able to raise that growth rate to 7%, 6.5 to 7. And today, we have slowly, over the past 3 years, we've gone down systematically. That growth rate went down from 7 to 6.5 to 6. And this year, it's 5.2, Salman. I mean, it's really disturbing. What is going on?
Not surprising at all. They're not in control. There is no semblance of clear economic thinking. The finance minister, I think, is this one last person who gets to know anything about the economy or anything to do with economic institutions. He's just a remarkably innocent man. Considering that he's been a civil servant himself, he's not able to get a grip over the civil service that is related to the economic planning. I mean, let's look at what has happened with duty levels. There's a major crisis on edible oil for the simple reason that whatever WTO permitted, they did not apply. There was no trigger mechanism. If prices were going to crash world over and there would be a glut of imports of edible oil, somebody had to react. Nobody reacted. An enormous amount of edible oil came in, and our own farmers suffered. I think this is the sort of thing that happened. They've lost an election in Delhi because of onions and tomatoes, and I think the same kind of syndrome just continues.
But if I may turn the question around, the truth is that whichever government comes to power, they want to do sensible things, and the opposition comes in their way from helping them to do the reforms. Now, let's take one instance of why investment climate is not good, and why and how this government was determined to go ahead with privatization. Why is it that they have not been able to do? Some would say that it was the opposition that did not allow the government really to go full steam on privatization.
We are neither in a position to stop privatization, nor have we. But there are questions. Even in our party, there are two views. There are some people who believe that there should be rapid privatization, some people who believe there should not be. They have the same problem themselves. They created the Swadeshi Jagran Munch. We didn't create it. And that's the munch which is now sniping away and biting at their heels. Of course, Balco happened, and Air India is now going on. But is it too much that we ask a question, how is it that the major assets of Indian economy are being sold with only one person the world over being interested in them? This is what worries us.
But tell me, Mr. Shastri, why is it that we've had so many governments over the last 4 or 5 years talking about privatization, setting sort of targets and not being able to achieve? What is the problem?
I think because the public sector policy somehow, slowly and slowly it became from worse, bad, and the situation became more critical. So all these things happened in such a manner that to improve the economy, naturally private sector had to be given more of importance. So the private sector was encouraged, and they were asked to, I don't deny that even 20 years back, if you say private sector did they had an important role to play in the economy, but now the situation demanded that more and more private sectors should come in, because the public sectors were not able to perform well. They were not able to perform according to what was the expectation of the government now. But as Salman has mentioned, I would like to mention, the WTO, when we come down to this, when we talk about the economy, it is something where we cannot blame each other. It was something which started from the time when the Congress was in power. And there were certain, matters and important issues which were discussed, and the government had to sign on certain agreements. So it is a continuous process. Now we have to see to it that how through the WTO, we in India, our people in India, whether they are industrialists, whether they are farmers, whether they are anybody, even small scale industries and kutir udyog, or you may call it village industries, to protect them, how to safeguard their interests, how to make them compete. But we are confident. This meeting, and now the Prime Minister has already expressed his desire that he will convene a meeting of all the Chief Ministers. All the Chief Ministers will be called, a meeting will be held before the Indian delegation visits in November, Doha.
In Doha, there is going to be a decision on whether there will be a new round of negotiations, which means that you will discuss
we will not
A,
go
B,
in
and C.
No, here I'd like to be very clear. We will not go in for any new grounds unless and until the problems, the difficulties which we had been facing from the earlier agreement are not set right, are not...
And we have only 2 or 3 other countries who are with us. All the other countries are saying that if you want to settle the problems in one area, if you go in for a discussion on a round, you can give somewhere, take somewhere, and you will be able to achieve something. But we have been very insistent, saying there will be no new round. What is the Congress's position on
Well, see, the main problem the Congress has with the government is that the government doesn't share enough. They share too little, too late. There is no way. I mean, the ground reality is that there is no way that you will rectify anything without a fresh round. Frankly, that is the ground reality. I mean, no matter how much we push Europe is not going to be able to give anything now at this stage. The main problem is, are we ready with the things that we should be doing? What about small-scale industry? I mean, the small-scale industry is now losing its protection. People have been accustomed to protection. Have we prepared our small-scale industry enough? Or this panic buttons are pressed, China and Chinese goods are coming in, what are we going to do? And suddenly, the line between an economic reality and general patriotic feeling is fudged. And before you know that
How would you prepare the small scale sector? That's a
well,
good
you
question.
should have told the small scale sector this is coming, this is going to happen. Two, we are going to provide you with certain facilities. Give the small scale sector power at least, for God's sake, in UP. If you want them to produce and to compete, the least you could do is to give them power. There is no power. So I think that you just have to be honest and you have to be transparent and say this is a reality. Forget this is nothing to do with patriotism. This is something about the economic reality of the world market. We have accepted it. Let's sit down and find what the solutions are. China does it. Why can't we do it?
Help them to compete. How would you help the small scale sector to compete with the Chinese imports?
So we have already come out with a package which was announced by the Prime Minister
Last year.
And there
That
are
is
still, no,
actually
I still,
very
no, I'll say here that there are still certain shortcomings, and the small scale sectors have brought them before us again. So now a serious thinking on these lines, not only small scale sectors, even we are going to the KVIC industry, that is our village and
Mr.
cottage.
Shastri,
We have to give them, as Salman rightly said, we have to give them a competitive.
But you see, there is a committee headed by Mr. Abid Hussain 6 years ago, which has laid down what all you have to do over a period of time to enable the small scale sector to compete. So why do we waste so much time and then we keep saying we have to look at it again, we have to think about, because you know, in today's world, time is really at a premium. The world will not wait for us if we don't. But let me turn to another question. There was such high sense of euphoria when the finance minister presented this budget last year. And all of us economists were very happy with the direction of reform that was shown in the budget. But now, 3 months, 4 months down the line, when we look at how things have turned out, things look really pretty gloomy. And we have not seen the investment that was expected. What is it about the government policy and the budget that has made the private sector not come out and invest?
The world over, the situation is so bad that it has made tremendous impact on the Indian economy also. And somehow the way earlier foreign investments were coming in, I think this is one of the reasons why they are not now at the moment. But we do realize the importance of economic growth, and we do feel that unless and until we go in for immediate corrective steps, it will be very difficult when we come for the coming years. So I feel that the government is very serious about it, and we, as I said earlier, we have to, across party lines, we'll have to think seriously, you know, and we have to come together on certain areas, and we'll have to see to it that how we improve the economy.
I think that, you know, on infrastructure, there just isn't a movement forward.
Infrastructure,
on power,
as he's
on power, there's no movement forward.
But on foreign investment,
the most important,
just that they are turning away, or have we done something to?
So I think we just haven't done enough to attract foreign investment. Now, how are you going to get foreign investment with, look at the mess, the enormous mess that has been made of Enron? Who would want to invest after that? I'm not saying that you know that only one particular party or one particular government is to blame. I think there's a series of decisions, and now it's become very clear from the Godbole committee that a lot of people are involved who are to blame for it. But the fact remains that if you have a problem, you must solve it. Nobody's done anything to solve that problem. People are not told exactly what is wrong with Enron. There are all kinds of speculation floating around. All kinds of threats are given and so on and so forth. So how will you expect people to come and invest here? And even now, the bureaucratic element involved in clearances for people to come and invest and start work is absolutely enormous. You may have cleaned up under central government, but my God, the states are horrible. Leaving 1 or 2 states, the states are horrible.
Every day that the Enron plant is closed and the way it is, we lose so much money, and the Enron company loses so much money. Why do you think we are taking so long to settle this issue?
I think the state government also is responsible to a great extent, because it has been, you know, they have been passing the buck from one to another, one party to another, like that. The government, and I think central government has very clearly stated that if you want to continue, we are always supportive. We are not against. But the point is, the state government, the way they have been tackling, it is not in the right. I can go even to the extent of saying the right direction.
Well, there's a choice between bankruptcy and doing what they're now doing. If they pay Enron according to the system by which Enron is expecting payment, the state government will run out of money in a year's time or 2 years' time. There will be no state government. And then you will step in and say, they don't know how to run Maharashtra, let's have a fresh election, and Mr. Bal Thackeray should be handed Maharashtra back on a platter. Now, how can that be? How can that be accepted?
No, but I think we will have to. We'll have to tackle this problem.
But whether it is the state government or the center, when we have a harsh reality and we don't apply our mind to it and solve the problem, take the case of the UTI. The problem doesn't go away. It comes back, 10 times worse. What do you make of the financial crisis that we seem to be in? And do you see any hope?
As far as our party is concerned, BJP, we have made it very clear to the government. We have even suggested certain, measures which have to be adopted, wherein we say that the party wants that more transparency should be brought in the investments, made by these financial institutions. UTI, of course, because it is there, it is before us, but other institutions, financial institutions also, more transparency. And then secondly, we also feel that in the case of disinvestment also, we have suggested earlier that the issue had come, that more maximum opportunity should be given to our Indian bidders first. Now let us give them preference. If they are unable to do it, then we can invite people from other countries, from world over. But otherwise, so we do feel that somewhere the sense of feeling towards the nation should also come up. It is not.
In what sense did you say the preference should be given? In what sense?
For disinvestment also, because there had been people had been saying that only the bidders from global bidders, they are all coming in and they are being given the preference, not the Indian companies, like that.
To buy up other Indian companies. But supposing, that's a strange argument, because if you have somebody from outside paying you 4 times as much as an Indian, are you not better off giving it to that person? Use the money to...
I'm not saying that a person giving 4 times more should be, an Indian bidder should be given the preference. No, I'm not saying that. But at first instance, we say that why not let Indian people also come, and they come in, and we try to give them preference. If they can
what does it mean to give preference?
Well, I think really the more important point is there's an issue in our party and an issue in your party. And that issue, I think, is what is troubling you and you're trying to get at that, maybe, if I can suggest this, is that large-scale privatization is taking away the control and indeed the sense of participation of average Indian, the small Indian, the working class Indian, etc. Is it a way in which we can shed government equity to the workers? Is it possible that the workers themselves are given equity on deferred payment basis, and the workers then come into a management? These are ideas that have been tried out in the past. But there is a feeling that, you should not just forget everything about the people in whose name these investments were made. Of course, they had no control over them really, and pass them on to unknown names that come from the outside world. But, on none of these has the government engaged us in a meaningful dialogue, because there seems to be severe competition for who can take the applause for success. And therefore, we look like spoilers, our people feel frustrated, they go out and become spoilers. And okay, if you want to take all the credit, you won't have credit. Not just on the economic front, the political front. Agra, exactly the same thing happened. They don't want to talk to us, they want all the flowers to be showered on them. We stand there as though we have nothing to do with Agra. Then they suddenly call us last minute and say, well, very quickly we thought we'll give you this handout, So what do? We scream murder and we say...
But we have been consulting. Don't say that.
You would tell me
No, we have been consulting. As far as Agra is concerned,
Yeah.
the Prime Minister convened the meeting of all the opposition.
No, but to
after
get-
4 days before...
After taking the consensus, you know, all
4 days before the
everyone
meeting.
was consulted.
4 days
And we-
before the
we
meeting.
went with that
but let me
national-
get back to the economy. After all, the process of economic reform was started by the Congress party, and we are going down a certain direction. As far as I can tell, when you listen to this finance minister and you listen to Dr. Manmohan Singh when he was finance minister, I don't see much difference in what they are saying. But on the ground, what I see is that these words are not having the same effect. Why? Why is the private sector not responding? Has something happened? This is why is our investment rating gone down? Why is it? You know, is this because of the fact that in our financial sector, what had been going on for a long time has now surfaced, and therefore people have become worried? What is it?
I think that is the pigeons coming home to roost. I think that they've really not been systematic. They've not been, I think, objective in the manner in which the reform process has moved forward. And I think that they just are thinking of a very limited band of people. They're not thinking of a larger section. Now, the Prime Minister has just said we've got these food bhandars and we have a new scheme now to give out food. New scheme to give out food? Every 6 months there's a new scheme to give out food and the bhandars remain full? Why? Obviously, somebody just doesn't care enough. I mean, that's absolutely clear.
But
We've
what
had
would
major
you do
calamities.
with that food?
We've
which
had
is
major
sitting in the
calamities.
warehouse?
It should not be sitting in the warehouse. When you've had major calamities in Orissa, major calamity in Gujarat, you have enough people who are living below the poverty line. Why should the food be sitting there?
But we have already done it. Salman,
You've just announced
now,
yesterday.
BPL also, we have said it, you know, how much we are giving already now. And even to senior citizens, we have announced.
You
that KG
redefined the
food-
BPL as well.
And you know, to be fair, when the finance
No, I
minister
think-
says to the
I think-
state governments, okay, you devise your way of procuring and distributing food, they say no. They want to pass the buck on to the government of India. So there is a real problem here. We have evolved a system over the years which really is biased towards, you know, buying at these inflated prices and then distributing it very inefficiently.
All such problems, I think, frequent meetings and consultations with all the state chief ministers and other state officers who are responsible for this should take place. And I think our government has taken the initiative. We have
But
invited
Sunilji, this has also become a bit of a ritual. You know, you have the meetings of state chief ministers or state power ministers, they agree on something, then they go back and they do exactly what they want. So I think now what we want is really some action and something on the ground which shows that what you say is actually happening rather than only saying. And what do you think the government can do to prove that they mean business about reviving the economy today?
I think our finance minister has already come out with a...
Now, one thing they could do is to change the finance minister.
Not at all. That is
I think these are systemic.
it has been said even by many other people that the changing of finance ministers may not solve the problem. The problem is a difficult problem, it's a serious problem, and the finance minister has been
And
very
it's
effective.
also a problem.
I would like to tell Salman Bhai, though he was talking about Yashwant Sinha earlier while discussing, but I think Yashwant Sinha has proved to be remarkable finance minister, no doubt.
We have no problem. You keep him there and helps us with our votes.
I know, and
We
I
have no
think,
problem.
I think he has done extremely well.
What would be the two most important things that you would do today if you had to change the level of confidence in the government by doing two major economic moves? What would you do if you were the finance minister?
I think the first thing which I would like to go in for is to create confidence among the people.
How?
For investing into
But how? What will you do to
we may have to think on revising the rate of interest, making attractive schemes for small savings and all that, because unless and until the people of India are involved wholly with the country, with the system, then we cannot expect every time that some money from some country will come in and that will be helpful to us. I feel that there is a serious need to motivate the people in favor of small savings, And for that, we will have to go in for attractive schemes. We'll have to go in for, because a small, medium class person, fellow, he becomes very difficult to go in for any share market or anything like that. So he looks for a small savings, some schemes, in the bank. Unfortunately, the rates had to go down, so because of certain international, the atmosphere.
Actually, if you want more investment, you have to bring the rates down and not raise the rates.
I agree.
The problem is not saving, the problem is investment.
I'm saying, but small, say from savings bank, for example, if we slightly increase, we can bring down in term deposits, but in savings bank, in postal.
No, but what will you do with that money? The fact is, how will you invest it? My question is, how will you get people to invest? Salman, if you were the finance minister, you had more time to think.
Well, no, I just think that the first thing you have to do is to give them top-class infrastructure. You give them infrastructure, they will come, they will invest. They will not invest in the kind of infrastructure you're providing today. Just plain and simple. Where are those roads? Where is that golden triangle? I mean, people have built and completed roads in 3 years. We still don't know, except for 3 advertisements that have come out in the newspapers congratulating the Prime Minister. There is no road. There's no road. How many kilometers have we built across the Noida Bridge? We've built 3 kilometers, 4 kilometers. You pay 15 rupees to go from one crowded area to another crowded area.
When he talks about infrastructure, I do agree infrastructure certainly is the most, it is needed. Otherwise, we do not proceed further. But even to create infrastructure, we need funds. So that
so you have to create the climate to attract
yes,
funds.
And we have to create a climate to attract funds. And I said, on one side, when I said that we should do it within the country, secondly, I do say that we will have to attract funds from abroad also. We'll have to get some funds.
Thank you very much. You can see that we can't agree on what to do to improve the investment climate and the state of the economy. We'll be back same time, same day next week. Until then, goodbye.